Okay, so first we discussed about the defining business need, right? And in business need, we spoke about strategic goal setting, right? And this is the very first step and also kind of very last step, right? Because very first step, we create this document, and at the last step, we come back to verify that whatever we have done, is it correct or not, or does it match to the goal that we had set? Okay, so the example which I told you to do an assignment, like look at the job profiles and create the profiles of your choice or of your interest, that is like doing the goal setting, because your goal is to learn those things, isn't it? And when we say that we are done with the training, you have to go back and verify whether all those things have been covered or not, right? So that's about goal setting. And here, as I said, we talk about four aspects. Okay, customer, finance, internal process or employees, and innovation and improvement. Okay, the second step we're talking about was called identifying the capability gaps. Okay, what we want to achieve and where we are currently. Correct. So what we want to achieve and where we are currently, that's the gap, right? And we need to fulfill that gap. We need to, whatever we do, we are trying to make that gap up, make up the gap, right? So description, assess the current capabilities of the enterprise and identify gaps that prevent it from meeting business needs and achieving desired outcomes. This will determine if it is possible to meet the need using existing structure, or if it will be necessary to launch a project to create that capability, right? See, first of all, when you know exactly what you want to achieve, only then you will know whether you have the current skill set to achieve, or you need to build one, right? Do you have current team? Do you have current process in place? If you realize no, we don't have it, that's when you start the project, right? So the document that goes as input are your business need, which comes from the previous step, and business need will tell you where you want to achieve, right? And enterprise architecture, the business architecture, what you have currently, correct? So what you have currently, what you need comes from business need, and solution performance assessment. You need to evaluate. So what you have, you evaluate to see whether you are able to meet the objective or not, right? Elements, current capability analysis, okay? Then assess the new capability requirements and assumptions if you have to make any, right? So techniques here, we talk about document analysis. What is document analysis? Document analysis is verifying, okay, the existing document that you have, okay, and that will tell you what you have currently or what is your capability, right? When you talk about a system, let's say you already have a system in place and you want to understand more about the system, what will you do? You will go and read the documents that were written by previous BA, right? So if you have a system in place and you want to understand what system does, you will go and refer the previous document that will tell you whether you are able to meet the requirement or not, right? So you are reading the documents created by previous BAs and see what more needs to be done, and then you perform SWOT analysis. What is the full form of SWOT? Strength, weakness,
opportunities and threats.
Yes. So strength and weakness are more personal. It is about your organization, okay, or about as an individual. So of course, here we're talking from business, so it is more about your company, right? Your organization. Okay.
Yes.
What is the strength and what is the weakness? Okay, you don't want to expose your weakness. We don't want to play on your weakness. You want to play on your strength. If your strength is to provide a great quality, right? Then don't compromise on the price. Okay, because anyway, price is not your strength, right? And if you look at things which are expensive, are far more expensive. Okay, the reason being that since they're playing at a premium level, right? Even if they reduce price by a few dollars, it's not going to help them. But since when you put a premium price, you are focusing on top less customers, right? Top customers, but they will be less in number. So you have to make more from less. Of course, you have to increase the price, right? So it's about your strength, and then don't play on weakness. So you should know what your strength and weakness are, right? And that works when you are in job as well. When you are uh, looking at your customer, okay, or your stakeholder, you need to understand your your organization or your customer's organization or your department for which you are working is a strength, and all the projects, that suggestions that we'll be making will be to build on that strength, isn't it? So we talk about strength and weakness, opportunity and threat. Opportunities, threat are something which is outside your organization. It is more from environment, okay,
Yes.
which you cannot control. Strength and weakness you can control. You can convert your weakness into strength, right? But your
Yes.
strength and opportunity and threat is more from outside world, which is not in your control. So if I, if country announces, let's say you are into insurance companies, right? And a country somewhere in the world announces that they are welcoming foreign insurance companies to come and set up their office, right? That's an opportunity for you to grow, right? So company has already started, so you go and you start, okay, office there, or you start exploring the the market. So that is about your opportunity, okay, which is not in your control, right? It is government which decides, okay. It is the environment, okay. For example, COVID, right? Because of COVID, everything went online, right? So it was an opportunity for Zoom like companies, right? Online uh, companies like Zoom, it became an opportunity, right? Whereas it was a threat for many of the companies, right? Companies which were more of physical, and like for restaurants, if you take if you take an example of restaurant, right? Most of the restaurants got closed during this time. It was a threat for them, right? So what is threat for one company may be opportunity for other. But from your company's perspective, what is that? Okay, so COVID became a threat for say restaurant, right? Many restaurants closed. So it is not in your hand, just that situation plays out. So as a company to survive and thrive, right? So if it is threat, you need to know how to survive. Most of the companies, right, especially in um, the education, right, the teachers kind of job, or classroom trainers, or even like hotels and restaurants, right? They cut down on salaries. They wanted to survive, right? So they cut down on salaries. They laid off few people so that they could survive through the threat. And when things started improving, of course, they would start hiring, and things would be normal, right? So that's what SWOT does. SWOT, you have to analyze your strength and weakness. You have to analyze your opportunity and threat, and then play with it. Stakeholders, read and tell me what, if you don't understand any stakeholders from the list. You have customers, supplier, right? Customer is at extreme end of right side, which is going to consume your product, right? Who's going to buy, consume, those are the end customer. Then you have supplier who's going to supply the product to you, what you need, right? So you need to talk about, understand what customer, because see, customer and suppliers kind of goes hand in hand, right? Because what a customer wants, right? So to meet the customer demand, you will look at your supplier. You cannot have different supplier and then you design a product, because the product that you will design will be based on suppliers only, right? Or the product that you will buy from suppliers will be based on what your Customers need, right? So that's where we write customer and suppliers together. Then
domain SME.
yes,
Subject matter expert.
domain expert is people who understand the domain or the business side of it.
Yeah.
Then
End user.
Who's going to use your product, right? Implementation SMEs, the person who's going to implement your solution at the customer end. So they are the ones who's going to implement. So you and you need to be careful, right? Like if it is cloud based, right? So that talks from the implementation perspective. Who are your end customers, right? In what way end customer is going to use your product, right? You need to know in what way end consumer is going to use. Based on that only you will design the product. If they need a cloud based, you have to design a cloud based application. If it is installed on the laptop, you have to design that kind of product, right? So that's why you need to know the implementation SME. Then you have sponsor, okay, the person who's going to pay money, right, for the company side, right? So they are the one who will set the budget for your project. And what you end up delivering is called required capabilities. Okay, required capabilities, you talk about bullet points that you need to develop, right? The same thing when you create those requirements list, okay, and then you look at how many of them you're comfortable with and how many you are not comfortable with. What you are not comfortable with is like your required capabilities. Those are the capabilities that you require in order to achieve your objective. So we perform the gap analysis. Okay, so there are multiple ways to perform gap analysis. Okay, one of them we call it as PDCA. Okay, you'll also hear as Deming cycle or PDCA. PDCA stands for plan, do, check, and act. So here you plan. Okay, so you have identified how do I identify the gap. Okay, so see here we're talking about identifying the gap, right? How do I identify the gap as a business? Okay, you are facing problem. But how do you identify what exactly you need? So you are, so the planning is about gap identification, okay, and then you start looking at the problems, okay, things which you want to improve or you don't want it to happen, or you want it to happen, but you don't know how to make it happen, that kind of thing. So you look at those things and then you start looking at the root cause, why it's happening, okay, what is causing it to happen. Then you perform, for each of those root cause, you look at the action that needs to be added. Okay, so that's all part of plan. Okay, identify the gap, find the root cause, and plan the action. Okay, we're not doing the action, right? It is about planning. So you plan for the action. All these are part of plan. Then in do, we are doing the implementation. We are implementing the action. Okay. Then you study the results. So when you implement it, okay, you have planned it in 1C, right? Plan C. Then you implement it and then you read the result. Is it what you expected? Answer is yes. Then continue doing it, making sure that things does not slip. This does not, go down. The quality doesn't go down, right? That's what we do in the last step, which is act. Okay, so act to make sure that you are continuously getting the benefit out of it. Now, if you are not getting the benefit, when you do the check is not what you want, then you have to again go and perform P, plan. So that's why it's a circle. Okay, we don't stop at act. We again go back to plan. If it is working fine, you're continuing. But moment you see it's not working or there's something wrong, you go and you start doing the planning again. Okay, so there are multiple ways to do gap analysis. One is the 1A. Okay, the first part is one is called service quality. Okay, then ISO standards, Saga, and two-dimensional analysis. Okay, So what survey quality talks about is based on your business, right? Based on what you are doing as a business, you identify the top areas for your existence. Okay. Why would customer buy your product, right? What is that you are trying to solve, right? So, in this case, maybe you'll come up with tangible benefit, reliability, okay? You have responsiveness, assurance, empathy. Let's say these are the 5 important aspects for you to survive. Sorry, I don't need to go back. Yeah. So these are the 5 important aspects for you to survive or be able to perform or give the right service to a customer. Okay. So once you have identified these 5 areas, you need to know how well you're performing on each of these, right? So these are all important for your business to survive. So you need to know how well you're doing on this, right? One that on which you're not performing well is the one we need to focus on. Okay. So you will create questionnaire from each of these areas. What do you want to measure in tangible? How do you want to measure intangible? Are you liking my product? Okay. Do you feel that the cost that you have paid is reasonable? Did it meet all your requirements? These are examples of tangible. Then reliability, right? So generally you'll have your reliability target, and you're asking the customers reliability. How often does it fail? Now here you are not talking from when you say how often, not the numbers, but it's about the perceived business. See, what you may like, let's say, I'm taking session for 3 of you, right? But all 3 of you may not give me same feedback. If I ask quality, okay, of delivery, probably one of you might give 9. One of, like, then second one could give me 7. Third one could give me 5. So it's about perceived value, not the actual value, right? It's all about perceive, and customer will judge you on their what they perceive, right? You think you're doing great, but if your customer doesn't perceive it to be great, then you can't, charge your value. So it's all about perceive. So question is not like, how often does it fail? 2 times, 5 times, 10 times. Okay, it will be like too frequently. Okay, rarely. So customers who says rarely, in terms of failure, you know that they are happy customer. But who says too frequent? Maybe it's the same kind of product, right? But for one, it could be rarely. For other, it could be too frequently. So, okay, so it is all about, see, in business, it's all about what you perceive, okay? And because most of the things are qualitative things, you can't even, judge, right? What is the right way of teaching? Don't know, right? If you're able to understand, you'll give me high rating. If you're not able to understand, you give me low rating, right? Same instructor, but the same thing happens in business as well. It is all about what you perceive, right? So if you see on the right hand side, the gap is between perceived service and the expected service. Now, if you expected the training itself to be boring and not so good, so even 5 for you may not be a bad, right? You expected it to be boring and it is boring. So you expect it to be 5 and you give 5. Okay, so it's fine. But you gave 7, but you expected it to be like 9. So there's a gap there, right? So perceived service and the expected service is what customer looks at, and this is what we measure in terms of, okay, questionnaires. You create a questionnaire, get the feedback, and then you evaluate. Okay, so we assess the service quality from customer's perspective, right? And we can track customer expectation and perception about your product. Okay, and when you create that score, that tells you what is the gap, right? You're expected, you want it to be at 8, but you are at 6. So that is, you have to improve by 2 points, right? So this is one example for a hospital. If hospital wants to improve the quality of service, so they created a questionnaire like this, right? What was the response time of attending physician on your first visit in the OPD? Okay. Do you rate the quality of service in terms of paramedical staff? So, so like excellent, good, average, poor. So you analyze, and of course, right, there's a different techniques to analyze all this questionnaire. So one method could be creating this questionnaire. Okay, you can look at this questionnaire. Second method is called SAGA, self-assessment gap analysis. The first one was from the customer perspective. This is from the self-assessment perspective, right? So let's say end of the session, okay, I will probably think, oh, I wanted to tell 10 things, but I told only 7 things. So these 10 things I need to prepare well, and probably next session I have to talk about it, right? So you are analyzing your, your own value by yourself, and you're not depending on the customer. So what you perceive as a service that you're providing is also important, right? So in SAGA, self-assessment gap, so both are performed, okay, and then you evaluate whether your expectation. Now, let's say if I give myself as 7, and all of you gave me 7, let's say as a feedback, then I know that there's not much gap between me, what I'm thinking, and you. If I rate myself as 5 and you give me 9, then that means again I'm not correct in terms of assessing myself, right? And it could happen other way also. I can give myself high and you give low, right? So that's the problem that we are facing, right? There's a mismatch in expectation. So the serve call is about understanding the customer's perspective, and this is about, okay, SAGA is about your perspective. Okay, then you talk about any standard, right? So if you are not able to decide about your quality of your service, so we can call upon the third party, right? Generally ISO standards, international standard, that's why I've written ISO, but it could be any certification body. They come, they verify. Okay, why do we ask, right? If you have to judge someone, okay, fresher, we ask to give marks for their, engineering or their graduation marks, right? Because with marks, you're going to make some analysis, make some prediction. So this is called the standard, right? You bring in the standard, and then you say that, okay, we are ISO 9000 certified body. Okay, when you say ISO 9000, there's a certain expectation, and you meet those expectations. So this is another way of analyzing. Okay, so certain body says, okay, there is the CMMI level you have, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have the other one also 6000 now. So if your performance is at level 2 by the third body, so you know that, okay, I want it to be 4, I want it to be 3, but the body rated me 2, so I need to do more stuff to reach to my objective. If your objective was to be 2 and you got 2, then probably you're meeting. You don't have to do anything, isn't it? So this is the ISO standard, and then you have this matrix. Next one is called matrix. Now here it's a 2x2 matrix. Okay, most of the time the 2x2 matrix is the best method to judge. So here it is about importance and perception. Okay, if we talk about the feature, the capability of your company, of your organization, so we are ranking in terms of importance and perception. So see, importance can be high or low, perception can be high or low, right? If both are low, okay, something which you think it's not important, and your customers think, your stakeholders think that it is not important, right? Both of you think that it's not important. We call them as low priority stuff. Okay, these things, when it's low priority, that means probably these things will never will happen. Okay, but maybe in future the perception can change, the importance can change, but right now it is not so important. So it is hanging in the low priority stuff. Then you have diagonally opposite of low priority is where importance is high and perception is also high. In importance high, perception high, it is a strategic area, right? You also know what is important, customers also know that is important, and okay, so you can focus on it, right? You want to improve it. You're putting your focus there. So that's called strategic area, okay, which is also good, right? The problem comes when there is a mismatch. You think it's highly important. Customers think no, it's not. Perception is that it's not good. Let's say you think that your product is great, but customer says no, it's not great. So it is called areas of improvement. You need to improve on those areas because then the customers think it's a high perception or low perception, right? You think it's it's not that important. It's low perception, but the importance is high. Actually, it is high, right? So these are the areas where probably we are not focusing because we perceive it to be less important. So we are not focusing on it. Okay, but these needs to have importance. So we call them areas of improvement. Include those areas in your discussions and those things. Then the last one is the diagonally opposite down of areas of improvement. Possible overkill. It means you think it's great work I'm doing, but the customers stakeholder doesn't think that you are doing great job. It's called possible overkill. Overkill in the sense you're putting your effort in things which are not relevant. There's no point putting effort there because nobody is going to appreciate it anyway, right? So instead focus on areas of improvement, okay? Because you think it's not important and probably you're putting less effort, but customer thinks it's important, so you have to put more effort, isn't it? That's called improvement and possible overkill. So all the features you can actually mark on these 4 areas, right? Next step, third step, right, is called solution approach. What do we do here? Can one of you explain? We discussed this briefly earlier also, right? What do we do?
Solution approach.
Okay, so here we're looking at the most viable solution approach. Okay, so what is that we are trying to achieve? Okay, what solution we are trying to tell to the customer so that we will be able to meet the objective, isn't it? So we are determining the most viable solution to meet the business need in enough detail to allow for the definition of solution scope and to prepare a business case. So we're trying to analyze the best solution for this problem, right? The solution approach describes the general approach that it will take to meet the capabilities required. To do this, it is necessary to identify possible approaches, the means by which the solution may be delivered, and assess whether the org is capable of implementing and effectively using a solution of that nature, right? So see, so of course, as I said, right, it is important to get a solution, right? But more so is that for that business, right? Can the business afford monetary part? Okay, you talk about something which is expensive and company may not be able to afford. Okay, the impact, is it going to have a high impact on customer, right? Or is it, so your solution, as I said, right, even if the 2 companies in same domain have same problem, okay, but approach could be different. Okay, one could focus on fast track, but someone could focus on low cost, slow track, right? One could focus on say the people oriented role, right? So there are multiple ways, okay, or multiple objectives which customer or your stakeholders will look at. So your job is to make sure that your solution is in alignment with what they need. First thing, okay, the first thing is that your solution will be to help your business grow, isn't it? Then it should be on the lines with your stakeholders. So what do you need? We need business need, business need, which is from the step 1, organizational process assets, OPA as we call it in short. Okay, organizational process assets are like your old documents. which talks about the process, business, okay, the different steps. It is more from the old steps that could have been designed before. Okay, and then of course the one that we designed in the previous step. Okay, required capabilities. What is your required capabilities? Okay, then business, then alternate, sorry, elements are alternative generation. How do you design alternate solution? How do you come up with alternate solutions? Then you have assumptions and constraints and ranking and selection of approaches. Okay, so as I said, right, you should have more than one approaches, and in a way you are ranking all the different approaches. You need to know which is the best approach. How do you decide which is the best approach, right? So rank the solution. And techniques, again, have a look and let me know which technique you don't understand. Benchmarking we have done, brainstorming we have done, decision analysis also we have done, right? At every step we are trying to think what is better. Okay. So I was saying that estimation is more from your experience, right? More from what you want to achieve. Okay. So so if we talking about timeline, right? So how much each of those solutions will take in terms of timeline, right? So how do you rank? Okay, you have to see here. It is in very beginning stage, right? You will not have time, okay, to perform. See, one thing is, if I ask you what you are planning for a vacation, right? This is a good example, right? So you will plan for some estimate, right? Even though the actual cost you'll come to know when you come back. When you actually spend, you come back and you will know the actual cost, and then you tell that, okay, so much was the cost and we spent so many hours, right? But unless, like, but you cannot but you have to make estimation before you go for vacation. We have to estimate for each solution approach before we actually do it, right? Of course, after doing it, we will know the exact cost, but before that, we need to estimate to know whether can we afford that trip or not, right? So again, as I said, right, in product, it's about cost, quality, right? Time. Okay, just give me a second, okay? I'll just be back. I'll just be back, okay?
Okay.
Techniques.
Techniques, right? So we know benchmarking, brainstorming, decision analysis. We know estimation, okay? So I was saying that yes. So we estimate the cost that will take to implement all the solution, okay? The benefit, right, from all the solutions, timeline, correct? The kind of people that is required. And one more aspect is, which we haven't spoken till now, but it is important, is called risk assessment, risk analysis, right? So even though the cost may be less, okay, benefit may be high, but let's say there is a lot of risk. So as a company, are you willing to take that risk or not, right? So risk is another important aspect that we need to look at. Then SWOT, we know feasibility analysis. Is it feasible to perform, right? And we will talk about it in detail in next slide. Feasibility is not only in terms of technical, but also in terms of market. Okay, is there enough demand for your product in the market, right? So if you think that, oh, we can make this and we can sell it, but are there any buyers for it? So we'll discuss feasibility in some time. Stakeholders, we all know: customer, supplier, domain SME, end user, implementation SME, sponsor. And what document that we create, or not a document is one single document, right? But there are different sections part of it. So solution approach is the section that you will develop from this. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of feasibility analysis. Okay, so executive summary is about summary of what you have done, right? Whatever you do, you have to do to summarize it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, apart from that, we have description of products and services. What you want to do, what is the product, or what is the end objective, or what is the end deliverable that you are planning. Okay, so you have to describe it. Then technology consideration. Okay, do we have the technology to do that? Okay, so whatever I'm saying, whatever the approach I'm suggesting, do we have the technology to do it? Then you talk about marketplace. Is there buyer for your product? Okay, marketplace means where you can find buyers. I want to do this. Let's say I want to train on business analysis, but are there any students? Is there demand for that subject, right? Of course, if it is there, then I'll be able to sell my training. If there is no such thing, then I will not be able to sell my training, isn't it? So you have to look at your marketplace. Then marketing strategy. How do you reach to your potential customer? See, when you launch a product, not everybody is your customer, right? You have to find your, so that's what the marketing team does. Marketing team's job is to find the potential customers who will be interested in your services, in your product, in your offers. Okay, and once they realize it, then you go and you start executing that strategy. So feasibility studies talks in terms of all this, okay? Products and services, technology, marketplace, marketing strategy, organization staffing. Do you have the right people to do that job? Solution is easy, but do you have the right people who can execute it, right? Schedule, the timeline, okay? You have interview next week. You cannot take a 6 months course, right? You have to take fast track course. That's the schedule. Financial projections, the business case is what we're talking about. What is the financial projection? Okay, financial projection has two main aspects, and third aspect is created based on the 1 and 2. Okay, what is the cost and what is the benefit, right? And then third aspect is the net profit. Cost, your benefit minus cost is your profit, right? So you need to know your cost and you need to know your benefit. That's what financial projection talks about. And finally, based on all of these 2 to 8 points, we are making our recommendation. Launch in this state only, launch across the globe, but on this kind of area, okay? Do reach out to your customers using Facebook, okay? These are the technology, these are kind of people you need to hire. Okay, this is the timeline that we need to develop, approximate timeline, right? And approximate cost, this is what it will cost us, right? So this is what we do in feasibility study. Is it possible? Okay, so possible has multiple ways. Okay, financially possible. Okay, technologically possible, right? Do you have the capability, enough people who can do this, right? So staffing, marketing, okay, marketplace. Do you have a buyer, right? So this is what we do in feasibility study. And then we create the solution scope. Okay, solution scope is what? Can you guess? We discussed this briefly. Whenever you see scope, right, it means your syllabus. Okay, always compare, scope with syllabus. What needs to be covered and what need not be covered. Okay. Yes. You guys
Yes,
ready? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, what is scope? What do you think is scope?
like which aspects we need to cover.
Correct. Okay. So talking, conceptualize the recommended solution in enough detail to indicate which new business capabilities will be delivered. Okay. So we are getting into enough detail, right? What is uh, what is the syllabus, right? So when you say this, these are the things that we are going to cover, that is like talking about in detail, right? So that is what you need to think when we say
Solution scope.
right. So talk in terms of detail, okay, what will be delivered, okay? And sometimes we also mention what will not be delivered, okay? Sometimes it is important because if there is a borderline thing, okay, then we also mention what will not be covered, okay? So the scope may change throughout a project based on changes to budget, time, quality, and other constraints, okay? You reduce the time, of course, the you know the context, okay, or the scope will come down, right? Okay, if you can deliver 50 features in 6 months, and if your project timeline is delayed, is reduced by 2 months, in 4 you cannot do 50 again, right? You can do probably 30 or 40, right? So it could be based on budget, time, okay, quality, right? If your quality is bad, you need to improve the quality. Of course, your focus will get into improving the quality, and the deliveries will come down, right? Cost, they reduce the cost. They reduce the cost means you cannot hire more people for your project. Of course, you have to do with less people, right? Then you will have to focus, you have to reduce the number of features, isn't it? Input.
Yes.
Assumptions and constraint, business need, requirement capabilities, and solution approach. These are everything that we have discussed so far, right? So we need all of these to create what? So we need solution scope definition of what is in scope, what will deliver, implementation approach, and if there are any dependencies. Okay, so we can complete the syllabus in in 1 month. Dependency is that all of us are there, right? Either I don't come, class will not happen. Or if you don't turn up, I can't teach to empty computer screen, so we cannot have class. So given that if everybody comes and if you have no delays, we can complete in 1 month. Otherwise, it will go down to 1.5, 2 months, right? But let's say you have some exam, okay, which is exactly 30 days from now, and let's say I fall sick for 2 weeks. So we will have only 2 weeks to prepare for the exam, right? So we cannot do everything. So we have to focus from the most important, right? Of course, we can't prepare for, let's say, 100%. Then what is that 20% which will cover 80%, right? So you have to talk in terms of important topics, right? So that's what it says that any dependency you have to mention. Techniques, let me see which all things you don't know, you want me to repeat. Look at the techniques.
Functional decomposition.
Functional decomposition, we have done it. Inventory example. Sales, managing inventory, managing finance, right? So it's about breaking down into smaller pieces and then start working on it, right? That's called functional. So functionalities, we are breaking, decomposing, something which is easy to implement, okay? So if I tell you I want to fly, right? It's a big thing. So, so instead of looking at, small, that you need to look at, break it down to smaller things which can be implemented, okay? It is easy to implement. What else?
Interface analysis.
Interface analysis also we discussed. We said what are the things to which it will interface. Okay, interface analysis could be your hardware, software, or human being. Okay, so you are interfacing with another hardware, another software, information flowing in or out to other software, right? So that's called interface analysis. What are different software or information that needs to be passed to different software? Okay, scope modeling. Scope modeling is looking at the scope. Okay, you're developing a document. Okay, so scope modeling and user stories, we'll talk about it in detail. Okay, user stories is again, it's a big document. Scope modeling is again a big document. Scope modeling talks about the scope, of course, and in how much detail you want to implement it. Okay, as the name of the user story is like a story. Okay, we have to write multiple steps. We'll see that in document when we talk about document. Okay. Yes.
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 Okay. Then you have stakeholders. All of them: domain SMEs, implementation SME, project manager, sponsor, and you end up creating scope solution scope document. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, okay, when you are doing the scope modeling, is that the way we start talking about is which new capabilities a project or iteration will deliver. Okay, then you manage and obtain and maintain consensus among key stakeholders regarding overall solution scope and requirements that will be implemented. Okay, so see, two important aspects it says. One, it says is when you're talking to stakeholders, all the stakeholders should be on same page. All the stakeholders should be on same page. Okay, they should not be talking about two different things. One. Second thing is when you are talking about the scope, right? It also remember that everything that you talk about will have to be implemented. Okay, so you should not promise something which you cannot deliver. Okay, one. And second thing is also you have to look at the the timeline, right? You cannot promise more, okay, which cannot be implemented within the given timeline or within given cost. Okay, and this is the biggest practical problem that a BA faces. When to stop, where to stop, right? Customers, I want this, and you keep on adding, okay, but you don't add to the cost, right? Or to the timeline also, right? Cost and timeline both are important. So it is about defining a requirement, then what is the requirement scope, and managing the scope creep. Okay, scope creep is talking about functionality which is not relevant, which is not included. Okay, and you have to manage that creep. Okay, some requirement coming in which should not have been included. Okay, it is of course going to increase your cost, timeline, right? Everything will get delayed. Okay, so you have to manage your scope properly. Then you talk about baselines. We discussed about baselines in I think change management. Okay, no. What is baseline? So see, baseline talks about from where to begin. Okay, what is the starting point? Okay. If you're developing from the scratch, okay, so you develop certain features. Now, when you're working on it second time, you would want to start from where you left, right? So that's called baseline. Talking about from where to begin developing your new feature. And then agile, it's also called as requirements management. Okay, so don't worry about agile. We'll talk about agile in detail. We'll talk about these things also. And finally, the last step is deliver a business case. What is business case? You have to speak something.
That's an output what the stakeholder wants.
So business case talks about cost and benefit. Okay, so here it talks about all the cost and also talk about the benefits. Okay, we'll talk about business case on next slide. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. No, I think we haven't discussed, right? So element that it will create. Okay. First, let's read the description. The business case describes the justification for the project. Okay. In terms of value to be added to the business as a result of the deployed solution. Okay. So what value the solution will add after it is deployed? Okay. Is it going to serve any purpose? Of course, you do project, we spend money to make some objective, isn't it? So that's the part of business case. Okay. The role of business case is to design that. In fact, for any dollar that you are going to spend, you have to create a business case. Okay. So, okay, deployed solution as compared to the cost to develop and operate the solution. It often contains expected cash flow, break-even analysis, quantifiable and qualitative benefits, profit expectations, and follow-on opportunities. It also shows methods and rationale that were used for quantifying benefits and cost. Okay. Oh, it's going to give us a lot of benefits. Very good to hear. But what exactly benefit I'm going to get? Okay, and you have to quantify that in terms of dollar. Okay, so if you're going to say that it's going to improve the efficiency of the workers. Okay, fine, great. Efficiency of the workers, great. But by how much? What is the dollar value I'm going to realize? So it says that the workers will not have to do the manual tasks. So right now, they do 20% of manual tasks. Right now, they do 20% of manual tasks, and when you bring the solution, the 20% of manual tasks is not required. So efficiency will improve with the 20%. Right? So how do you convert into dollar? So you know that the salary of, let's say, of one person is $100 per month, let's say, for example. So if 20% of the work is not to be done, right? That means 20% of $100, right? So you are going to save $20 every month. Okay. So every company grows, right? Every company grows. So what it says is, when you grow to next level, you will not have to hire a new people. So let's say if you grow a business for 20%, you already have 20% of the people to support you, right? So the 20% of the salary of the CTC has become the benefit that government is going to realize. Okay. So in terms of, whereas the government is the business, right, is going to realize by implementing a solution. Okay, so the example that I gave you is that everything has to be quantified. Okay, errors reduced, transportation cost reduction. Okay, more profit, more customers. Right, everything has to be included in terms of dollars. then only you can come, because cost that you'll be paying in dollar, right? So is the benefit much larger than the cost? That's what we want to show to the world. Inputs, assumptions and constraint, business need, solution scope, stakeholder concerns. Okay. Any question here? You all with me?
No.
Yeah.
Right? Any question, just stop me, okay? And then the elements that we need to create is benefits, cost, okay, risk assessment, right? We will not be talking about risk assessment, but this is the reason, okay?
Yeah.
And the results measurement. So we'll again talk about risk assessment in detail. What are different aspects that we need to look at or to, mark a risk assessment, because this is important, right? If the risk is high, okay, then probably the benefit also should be much higher, or then you will take it up. The risk is high, benefit is not much, you will not be interested to take that risk. So it is also important to note down the risk, okay? So as I said, we will talk about risk assessment in later. Techniques, let me look at the techniques and tell me if you understood all of these.
Vendor assessment.
Sorry,
Vendor assessment.
vendor assessment, okay? So see, you will have input for all your process, right? So input is provided by a vendor, that's why we call them as vendor input. So how do you make sure that the product that you're going to get, okay, the end product from your visitor, okay, is nothing but the maybe the beginning product, okay? So you're taking that input from the vendor. So how do you make sure that vendor is following your process or not, right? So you need to also have people who's going to perform vendor assessment, okay? So like Apple takes a lot of input or data from the third party, right? So everything that goes into that is the responsibility of the Apple itself, right? So you have to make sure that vendor assessment is done and you pick the best vendor for your job, right?
Yes.
A material and key performance indicators.
Key performance indicators, we discussed this KPIs. So we discussed that, I think the first day or second day itself, that when you look at,
I'll check.
when you look at a business, right, or, okay, so this is part of enterprise analysis, but beginning stage. So when you talk about a product, okay, how do you measure the, how do you measure the success of a project, right? If your objective was to improve the revenue, okay, and you are saying that I'm going to improve the revenue by 5%. So revenue has become your KPI, performance indicator, right? And your current value is, let's say, say 3%, and you want to improve to 6%. So you will say that KPI is revenue, and the metric that you're going to, okay, the future value is going to be 8%. Current value is 3%. So you're improving from 3% to 8%. That's called KPI. And there will be multiple KPI, right? Business, depending upon the industry, it will have multiple KPIs. So here itself, we can talk about, each of those 4 areas that we discussed, we can talk about a lot, right? We can talk about assumption constraint, right? We can talk about, like revenue growth, okay, profit, inventory management, etc. Right? These are all your KPIs. So every industry will have its own set of KPIs. Yes?
Okay, okay.
What do we do? Shall we meet for one more class today, or shall we end in 7-8 minutes?
I'm good till 11:15.
11:15 is another half an hour, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's see. Okay. So
Is there
any other
anybody
question
is
on this slide?
What, Saurabh?
Any other question you have on this slide?
No.
No, Saurabh.
Okay, so business case will have this section, business drivers. Okay, the reason why you're doing the project, right? What are the factors that drives the business basically, right? So those are the factors that you're going to improve. Right? Then cost, right? Total input cost, benefit. Benefit is pure estimation that okay, after 6 months I will get so much of benefit. After 12 months I'm going to get full benefit, and I'll get X dollar every month. That kind of thing. So that is the example of benefit. Risk, okay, it might come, right? So every business has a risk. You have to figure out the risk and then prepare accordingly. Any question here on this? Not just slide, but multiple slides that we have been showing you for last few months.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that we finish the first topic, enterprise analysis. Here we also look at buy versus build. Okay.
Okay.
What is buy versus build? Okay. See again, when you talk about business case, we're talking about the total cost, right? And cost will have two values. What is called, fixed variable, and also, not fixed variable. Sorry, the fixed values and the variable values, right?
Yeah.
So fixed values, okay. So when you are running a factory, let's say, okay, irrespective of how much amount you are going to, quantity that you're making, even let's say, you close your business for a month, then factors like rent, right, is fixed, isn't it? When you close your factory, also you have to pay the rent. Okay, so those are called fixed values, fixed, and then you have variables. Variables are those which increases based on number of people, right? So what it says is, when should you buy and when should you start building your own? For example, you want to eat bread. If you want to eat bread, will you set up your own bread factory, or you'll go and buy the bread from the shop?
From the shop.
You go and buy.
Right? Why not set up your own bread factory? The cost will of course be less, isn't it?
No, we don't need that much bread, right? Like we need.
Just we want one pack or
Right?
something.
So
Why
see,
we have to?
if you're buying a bread for $2, let's say outside, that means the cost of that bread is only $1, isn't it? So if you make a bread at home, it will be $1, not say $2 that you're paying to buy. So as you said, right, there could be, because setting a factory has a fixed cost, right? Here, variable cost is less. You make one piece of bread, you pay less, and then you want more, you can buy more. So variable cost will change based on the product, which is fine. Okay. So if you want one, we'll pay only for one. If you want 10, but there's a fixed asset, fixed cost like rent. Okay, the machinery that you are going to buy. Now these things, okay, even then, you don't make any sale. You have to have the factory set up, people to manage it, right? So those are okay. So when you are thinking of either making or buying, we look at the total cost, isn't it? And then
Yes.
you say, okay, it is cheaper to buy a bread pocket than start making a factory or start producing bread at home. Okay, so if you see, buy is where you are not getting any headache. You just go pay money and get it. Okay.
Yes.
So buy, you only have to think about the cost and the benefit. Okay, let's say your mother asked you, or maybe someone asked you to buy something, right? And you go, you buy, and you let's say you want to order food from some online app, right? Let's say from Uber, right? So you don't care about the cost of ingredients, right? How much is the oil, how much is the butter, cheese cost? You don't care about it, right? You just look at the menu card, right? And you order it, right? Menu card, of course, will be expensive. Okay, you look at menu card, you pay, and you get the delivered. Okay, here you are paying higher cost per unit, but advantage is that you don't have to work hard, right? You don't have to cook, you just order and you get it. That's an example of buy. Build is, okay, you said, no, let me prepare food myself. Okay, so if you want, to buy, okay, to buy the raw material, of course, but you also have to run the risk, right? Risk is that what if you're cooking and it doesn't turn out to be good? Okay, so the entire cost is waste. Okay, so you also run the risk, assumption, constraints, but advantage is if you're doing in bulk, of course the cost will come down because the fixed cost, which is very high amount, will get distributed on multiple projects, multiple products that you're buying. So of course the cost per product will come down, right? So, but you also run the risk. Okay, benefit is also higher, but risk is also higher, right? If you don't produce enough, you have to still pay. Okay, and if a product turns out to be bad, you have to remake it, right? Customer will not buy for a faulty product. If you made it faulty, it's your fault. So what we have done so far, we have done business need, capability gaps, solution approach, scope, and final business case. Any question on this? Maybe you take a minute to revise everything in your mind, okay, and then we'll continue forward.
Okay.